Hello everyone and welcome back, and don't worry, the audio is gonna get better. I just want to show something real quick. So, this right here is one of the GTX 970s that I got from my friend as dead. And right now, when you turn on the system, and there it is. It gives out a picture, and you're gonna see it does boot. And yeah, so that's pretty much the video right here. The Palit 970 is fixed, and yeah, I'm usually using another card, so the driver's not initialized right now. It's gonna go black. Yeah, there it goes black, and then you have the driver. And yeah, I'm not gonna run any benchmarks because you're gonna see that shortly. But I wanted to show you the card fires up, and there's an image. And it does work. So onto the desk. So hello everyone and welcome to the desk. So here's the GTX 970 that we just saw booted up. And now I'm gonna talk about what I did to the card, how I got it back to life, and I'm also gonna show you what I did because there's still things to do with the card, and yeah, you're gonna see that once I remove the heatsink. So one thing that you're gonna notice first that was also actually visible in the video that I made before about these, you're gonna see the stickers on the back are kinda worn and not really there anymore. That's actually because I ran it through the dishwasher to clean it. And on this card, it was already pretty clean. It only ever had dust problems, and those had actually solved. So yeah, and yeah, so here's the heatsink. Not really all that spectacular, but here is the card now with the backplate attachment. So you're gonna notice one difference from the last video, and that is that right here. There's an empty pad now where there was a power stage first. So I did get a hot air station. Yeah, so here's the hand piece. It's a UV Stare 858D. It's really cheap. It's 45 euros. And I was expecting to get a pretty crappy hot air station. Actually, it is. I'm pleasantly surprised. So far it did everything I wanted it to do, and it can even go higher than what was listed. So it was listed as 450 degrees. It can actually go up to 500. So yeah, I would say for 45 bucks, like, I don't think a professional repairman would buy that thing, but like for people who do it from time to time like me, this thing is actually a very good thing. I really like it. I was expecting something really crappy, but yeah. So back to the card. Yeah, so really the only difference is that power stage that I removed. But for the sake of completeness, let's go over the troubleshooting process one more time so you don't have to watch the other video too. So, as I've already said, I picked up this card from my friend as dead. So he gave me two 970s, and he gave them to me and told me like, okay, I couldn't do anything with these. Let's see what if you can do something, and if you fix one, you can keep it. If you fix both, I would like to have one back. So far, this is now booting up, so kinda one is fixed. I wouldn't describe it as, I would describe it as fixed, but not as repaired, because there is still things coming that I'm gonna do to this card, and then I can properly call it repaired. So yeah, and both of these 970s have the same issue. So you put them into your PC, you press the power button, you will hear that the GPU fans go up to 100%, but nothing will happen. You're not gonna get a picture. If you have a postcode, you're gonna see that the actually the B2 postcode gets passed, at least on this card. I didn't look at it for the other one, but the graphics card debug LED will stay on for both of these. So the graphics card is not being recognized by the system, which is pretty, like, yeah, it's easy to find out why if you take a multimeter and stab all of the voltage rails, because all of them are at 0 volts on both cards. So both of these cards had all of their VRAMs shut down. VCore is dead, VMEM is dead, VPEX dead. That's pretty much all the power rails on this card. I don't know if there's a 1.8 volt one for the. Actually, there's a 5 volt LDO. That one was actually running on both cards. But yeah, so the VRMs would shut down, and so I focused first on this, which also, like, by now I also messed with the other card, and this one is definitely the easier one. The other one actually has a different problem, even though it has the same symptoms. So this card, I looked around a bit and I noticed that there's what is labeled as R on the PCB. So you would think a resistor. I've seen people describe these kind of components as fuses. It is kind of used as a fuse here, in a place where normally an input filtering inductor would be, but this card doesn't have them. I think as a cost-saving measure, or like because they really wanted fuses and went out of their way to rather have fuses than input filtering. So the important bit is there are 3 of these on the board. There's one right here, one here, and one here. These 2 are for the 6 pins. This one is for PCIe. And you can see this one, this one that was to one of the 6 pins. This is bridged by a Bodge wire, because this is actually burnt out. The other ones are fine. I bridged them with solder because I wasn't sure if they like still kinda worked, but we are also at the brink of burning out, so I bridged those with solder. Probably unnecessary, didn't have to do that. So I bridged this with a Bodge wire, and that's just a cable that I stole from an old power supply. So it's an 18 AWG, I think, cable. And yeah, once I bridged this dead resistor, fuse, whatever, the card would now trip over current protection and shut down if you tried to power on the system. So you would press the power button, it would just go turn off immediately. That's because this burnt, let's just call it a fuse, wasn't the only problem. There was a short from 12 volts to V-core. And a short from 12 volts to V-core is pretty bad, because your core is getting 12 volts and your core can die on 1.92 volts. That's enough to kill it. So if you have a short from 12 volts to V-core, that's a pretty bad thing. Luckily, overcurrent protection saved the card, because you saw it's booting up. I actually ran a benchmark on this, but due to an issue, I would not do it until I properly repaired. I'm gonna go to that later. So, since that short was now there, and I realized that there was a short actually because I didn't check, I just thought, oh, this thing burned out. Me bridged this thing, card fixed, maybe. So yeah, I noticed there was a short. And so one of the 4 NCP5369 power stages has to be out. And I thought, okay, these are pretty big chips. Because I didn't have my hot air station back at the moment. So I thought, okay, if I can remove the power stage, I'm just gonna remove the inductor. So I took pliers and ripped the inductor off the board, which actually worked fine because these are non-through-hole. These are SMD, surface mount inductors, so these are pretty easy to remove with not even a lot of force. You just gotta be careful because the casing of these will crack rather easily, and this metal dust that comes out of the cracked casing, if that gets anywhere and bridges anywhere, you're gonna have a bad day. So yeah, I removed the inductor, and now the short from 12 volts to V-core was gone, but you would still have the same problem. So you would not trip OCP anymore, but the card would still shut down all the VRAMs and not do anything. And then I checked some more and I realized, oh, there's another short in the same power stage, a short from the gate of the high side fed inside the power stage to ground. And because of that, the VRM is shutting itself down to because basically the card trips over current protection, but it's not pulling enough current to shut down the entire system. It's just the card shutting down the VRMs while the rest of the PC keeps running. So at that moment I thought, okay, yeah, I'm gonna need a hot air station. And I started to realize that the other card is also gonna be only fixable with hot air. So I made the decision and bought this hot air station. And then I removed the power stage right here. And actually also you're gonna see these 2 empty pads. I also removed these accidentally, these two capacitors. I still have them, so I can't put them back on. but these belong to this power stage that I removed, so at the moment it doesn't matter if these are still there, because the power stage is no longer there. So then, me thinking, okay, there's not really any other problem that the card could have, I reassembled it, put the cooler back on, and still nothing, sadly. But, so I thought, okay, because I still got nothing, and I checked and I didn't find any shorts, I thought, okay, I'm just gonna wash it. So I washed it, let it sit overnight, and then the next day I came back to troubleshoot it some more. I just tried to reconfirm where I was, that the short is gone and that it still doesn't work for some reason. Except this time, it started to work. So, this time I put the card in, I literally changed nothing. Or so I thought. I changed nothing, so I thought, I put it back in, and now the core got hot, because I was just holding my finger down on the core. At the time I didn't have thermal paste on it. And it was always cold because the VRM is shutting down. Now it was getting hot really, really fast, which means, oh, the VRM is running. And yeah, so I tested it and it put out a picture. But then I tried to run a benchmark to check, okay, the core probably got a lot of voltage during the 12 volts to V-core short. Is it still good to run a benchmark? I started to run a benchmark, and after a couple seconds, the card shut down. And I thought, okay, what's happening now? A few shenanigans into I'm just gonna skip over the stuff that I did, because ultimately I noticed, okay, the VRM heatsink is the issue. Because the VRM heatsink has a thermal pad on it that is... This card has been messed with before. So the thermal pad has a lot of indents from remounting the VRM heatsink. And from all this remounting, and just from the card being not the newest one, the thermal pad on that VRM heatsink became so thin that, because the VRM heatsink clears it's over this entire block, so also these capacitors and that PWM controller. And what would happen is the thermal pad was so thin that I think these capacitors, or maybe some of the ones around the power stages, would short, and the card would detect the short again and shut down the VRM. So once I noticed that, I removed the VRM heatsink, and then the problem was gone. The card would boot up reliably. The problem is just, not only have I removed one of the 4 phases, it's now also not having the VRM heatsink is gone. So that's why I'm not running any benchmarks on this card. It can run them, like it got into a benchmark and it only shut down because of the VRM over here, so the core and the memory is fine. I think. Like, it didn't run for long, but there were no immediate artifacts or something, so worst case, you're gonna have to downclock it a bit, because if it's not immediately crashing, it's pretty much like there's a 99.9% chance that the core and the memory is good. And yeah, so that's how the card is now. There's no VRM cooling, one of the 4 phases is missing, and also the inductor is missing, but it's booting up. It's just, you can't really use it because the VRM, the V-core VRM, it's just gonna go over. It's gonna be overheating or just blowing up, because those 3 power stages can't handle a GTX 970 core, which is a really, really power-hungry core if you push it. So yeah. So what I'm gonna do is, or what I did, is I went on eBay, and I ordered a new thermal pad. So I don't have any thermal pads on hand, so I ordered a big sheet of thermal pad where I can just cut out the thermal pad that I need to use that. And then I also ordered a new NCP5369 to solder on here, and I'm also gonna put those 2 capacitors back and the inductor. I still have all of that, so I can just put that back. And I've been practicing a bit with the hot air station. Like, I took some cards, some dead cards, and then other old hardware, and practiced with that. And like, I can take some of the stuff that I messed with. So I tried desoldering and reattaching things, and you can see some of that here. So a VRAM module, another VRAM module, bigger MOSFET, another one of those, PWM controllers, other controller ICs, another MOSFET. So yeah, I was practicing removing and reattaching those sort of things, and actually I also did the other 970. So right here, those two driver chips I removed and reattached. The third one is still missing. Also, I removed and reattached all of these MOSFETs. Those two are also still missing, so the last two phases are missing at the moment. This inductor, I tried to pull it, didn't work, only the casing came off, and the actual inductor, the wire in it, was still in the PCB. But, oh, and something fell from the card. Yeah, because I'm keeping the parts, so the driver and the two MOSFETs that are still missing, I keep those taped, well, to a piece of tape. Just as I'm keeping the two resistors and also the dead power stage from this. And the inductor, okay, that's big enough, I'm not gonna lose that. So yeah, so my plans for this card is put the inductor back on, put the two resistors back on, put a new power stage on it, put on a new firmware pad, reassemble the card. One more thing, probably, there is a fin somewhere on the heatsink. I don't know if it's this one. One of the fins of the heatsink. Yeah, I think it's this one. So it's loose, and when the fans spin up, it begins to rattle, and it's really annoying, so I'm gonna find something to do with that fin. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So for now, the card is fixed, in the way that it now boots up again. It's doing what it's supposed to. It's just not ready for normal use yet, because that VRAM is in a very, very weakened state. So fixed for now, and there's gonna be, once the parts arrive, it's gonna take a whole while. Like I think some parts are coming from China, and it's gonna take a month or something. So it could be quite some time until the card gets some more attention. Meanwhile, I can mess with the other one. That actually, yeah, so the other card, I don't think I'm gonna make a video about the other card, because there's nothing really a lot to talk about. It's just right now I'm suspecting that the VCOP PWM controller is dead. Because first I was suspecting it, one of the drivers, then the MOSFETs. I tested all of them, like removed them, so only one was left, and then removed the last one, put one back on, and so on, and tested all of them individually. Everything, like, never changed anything, so yeah. So I guess the PWM controller of that card is dead, or something else. I'm gonna look more into it. But for this card, so once the parts arrive and I have time to put them on, it's gonna be a follow-up video for the card. And yeah, I guess then there's also going to be overclocking, because a card that you've messed with, especially one that you've brought back from the dead, is always pretty interesting. Like, yeah, like I want to overclock this. So that's it for the video pretty much, before we get to 20 minutes. So yeah, actually I think we are 20 minutes already, because there was the first part that I'm not seeing on my timer right now. Yeah, so it's probably 20 minutes already. Oh yeah. But yeah, thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and until we see each other next time. Goodbye.